Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As a nation, we're facing an extreme failure of the U.S. Justice Department. What is abundantly obvious: huge numbers of fake documents, huge numbers of forged and fabricated, concocted recordings and files, altered mortgage electronic registration files, and other tricks of the trade have been used to rob the American banking system stupid. So much so that Barack Obama and Eric Schneiderman and Eric Holder took $25 billion in settlement from the perpetrators. Now, I know that I'm searching for my words very carefully here, because enough is enough. We've been treated to a bunch of smoke and mirrors by Jeff Sessions, and a bunch of smoke and mirrors by Donald Trump. He promised the Clintons would have a special prosecutor, and they would be facing some serious challenges to all the finger-wagging lying that Bill and Hillary have been doing. But we didn't get that. And it's been gloves off the bankers. The bankers have been untouched. And here's the reason why, folks. You've got massive campaign financing and massive expenditures of money from these gangster banksters to control the national elections. In other words, you have a campaign finance scandal hundreds of times larger than the one in the 1980s and the 1990s going on, and Jeff Sessions just is not doing his job. Sessions came in and he laid down. There's no swamp draining going on. Chasing potheads around Jeff Sessions is not swamp draining. I'm sorry, Chief. Folks, you know, you get into the proof of the facts. You get into discussing what really happened here. And you begin to understand that when you use falsified documentation and false statements and all kinds of altered records to foreclose on hundreds of thousands, millions of family homes, on the back end of pushing these houses in subprime loans, subprime lending, where there was no qualifying, little or no down payments, where you suck consumers into these overly priced homes with stupid interest rates. And then, of course, you had your foreclosure court set up for non-judicial, where you could just, for whatever reason, decide to take a home. And then, of course, we've got these debt buyers running around like Select Portfolio Services and Deutsche Bank and Wells Fargo and WAMU and Washington Mutual, let's see, Bank of America, Citibank, and the list just goes on with Chase Bank. Western banks in Houston are a prime example of these frauds. Western Bank in Houston are a prime example of these frauds. In the link below, I'm going to post the link below, you'll note a story where Western banks were declared insolvent by themselves. They declared themselves insolvent and shut themselves down because they knew they had a trial date coming up with me. I had obtained a trial date in the 384th District Court, Harris County, Texas, that's Houston, in case number 198617930. And so the former FBI agent who was running the banks, the former Texas bank regulator who was running the banks knew that they were facing some serious problems with me in court. They falsified their bankruptcy to avoid litigation and to avoid their creditors. They faked their insolvency. And then they went on a global buying spree. The links below will show that Western banks and the RLG Westgate holdings out of Zurich, Switzerland, Braintree, England, Monaco on the French Riviera, Nigeria, all over this world. These people own billions of dollars in real estate and corporate assets. Billions. From Dubai to Saudi Arabia to Egypt, England, Switzerland, all over the world, these people are massively wealthy, but they faked and staged their insolvency in Houston, Texas. And this is precisely what's going on with this Jeff Sessions, Donald Trump pissing contest. That's what it is, a pissing contest. Jeff Sessions has not done his job. Jeff Sessions has let the Clintons and the Bushes just skate. Nothing. They're Teflon because they were running CIA and they were running Treasury and they were running DOD and they were running NSA. Obama, Bush, Clinton have all been allowed to skate. And people like Comey and Mueller are UBS Bank and HSBC. And these people are all directly connected to the big Chase banks and Deutsche banks, and of course we've got the Federal Reserve Bank, who runs them all. The granddaddy mafia of them all, the Federal Reserve. And we've got a situation in America where families who are struggling to start with are faced in court with a bunch of lying, cheating slobs that fake all the documents and falsify their records and change the electronic registrations and don't have the correct paperwork, so they just create it right out of thin air. They create the documents just like the Federal Reserve creates reserve notes out of the thin air. And when it comes to scientific evidence, you know, I get what the Federal Reserve is doing. They're creating vast amounts of legal tender. See, they even use those words to confuse you. It's a legal tender, it's not dollars. There's a distinction to be made in fact and law, but that's a subject of another video. They create huge amounts of money by just marking it up with keystrokes on the computers. And then, of course, we've got the 11th Amendment, where all the states are immune. In other words, the people of the United States, you cannot sue your state governments in federal court for constitutional law violations because the states are absolutely immune, sovereign immunity under the 11th Amendment. So the U.S. Constitution's of no use for you against the state governments. Isn't this fascinating? Now, folks, you talk about a constitutional crisis. The states can pretty much deprive you of your constitutional rights, and you can't put a finger on them. You can't lay a glove on them in federal courts because of the 11th Amendment. They've got this whole country rigged, and it's rigged on purpose because you are the serfs. You're the serfs, ladies and gentlemen. They've turned you in to the human resources. You are the serfs. And everything else that you're facing in your lives, it's the same thing. You got to register everything. You got to license everything. You got to pay taxes on everything 2 and 3 times. You don't own anything. Stop paying your taxes on it and see how quick they take it away from you. You don't own it. You're a renter. You're literally a sharecropper and a serf. A peasant. That's what they've turned you into, a peasant, because the money's even fake. Now, if you think I don't know what I'm talking about, you better understand that what's behind me is a complete collection of the United States Supreme Court reporter. And I got plenty more besides this. I understand the law and the history just fine. So to Jeff Sessions, you're not doing your job. You came into the United States Justice Department and all you've done is protect the Bushes and the Clintons and their mafia, which you're part of in Alabama, and it's well known down in that country just how corrupt you were as a state attorney general, Jeff Sessions. It's no secret. And Donald Trump, you know, paying hundreds of millions of dollars to whores, paying off your whores to keep them quiet. The American people had a right to know about that. I'm sorry, sir, but this is the United States, and this XXX rated dog and pony show of your old girlfriends and all your ex-wives, it's disgusting. And it's playing out in front of the eyes of all of America's children, and it's playing out in front of the eyes of all of America's teenagers. It's disgusting what's going on here, America. Absolutely disgusting. And I don't care what your Trump bot's opinion is. The Trump bot motorcycle gangs that are going to, you know, revolt and stage an insurrection if you're impeached, I don't care what their moral degeneracy is all about, because it's moral degeneracy. We've got a constitutional crisis in America, ladies and gentlemen. The administration that was supposed to drain the swamp hasn't lifted a finger against these crooked bankers. And the families that are being victimized by these crooked bankers and their lawyers and their servicing companies and all these, you know, fraudulent, faked, felonious foreclosures. That's going to be the name of this particular video. Felonious foreclosures. How many people are going to be put in the street by these criminals before the Justice Department lifts a finger? Now, to close this video out, this is directed to Lars Hansen, the Inspector General of the Federal Housing Finance Administration. I notice that you're going after Robert Morgan up in Pennsylvania and New York over using false reports and fake documents and cooked books. They cooked the books to get a couple $100 million worth of loans from the Federal Finance, Housing Finance Authority. They used fake documents, didn't they, Lars Hansen? I think that the people across the United States that are being suckered into these foreclosures with fake documents, I think they deserve 100% equal protection under the law. And I think that they're not getting it. And I'll tell you why I think they're not getting it. My parents were subjected to an extremely unlawful foreclosure back in the 1960s and 70s. They took everything my parents had, Lars Hansen, by faking the records. I watched my father die. It killed my father. And my mother's life was basically ruined. And a couple of my older brothers took it very, very hard. And it's been difficult on the whole family for years. And I'm absolutely sick and freaking tired of listening to Donald Trump's and Bill Clinton's whores, and Barack Obama's boyfriends, and Barack Obama's $25 billion settlement with the people that I'm talking about in this video. They took $25 billion for what? And how much did they actually steal in the first place? I'll guarantee it was a whole lot more than $25 billion. $25 billion was chump change. Barack Obama, Eric Schneiderman, Eric Holder. $25 billion was chump change. And the victims of these real estate frauds, these felonious foreclosures, They got nickels and dimes. While your political action pals, your special political action cronies, got what? 3,000 million? 3,000, that's 3 billion, ladies and gentlemen. Obama and Holder and Lynch and Schneiderman and that whole gang, they skimmed off a huge amount of money to fund Barack Obama's private little shadow government. And there's a lot of this funding and financing of the shadow government going on by the gangster banksters that have robbed this nation stupid. There's a lot more to be said, folks. I can go on this video for days. But you won't listen to it and it'll never get heard. So I'm going to put this one in the can and upload it to the net and close it out by saying this. All across America, the people that have been cheated, the people who have been swindled in these banking scams and schemes, the people that have lost their homes, it's time to circle the wagons and join hands and en masse stand up. It's time to stand up and to confront this out of control, totally dysfunctional, bought and paid for Justice Department and FBI. Because you know what? You go down and try to register a vehicle with a bunch of falsified papers, or you go down and try to buy some real estate from the government with a bunch of falsified records and falsified papers, they're going to nail your hide to the wall. But when their political butties, their little campaign contributors and the people that are financing their shadow government, when they do it, they're Teflon. Like the Clintons and the Bushes are Teflon. Sessions, you haven't laid a glove on what the Bushes did, you haven't laid a glove on what the Clintons did, and you haven't done one thing about anything that Barack Obama has done. And I see all these clowns coming out of the CIA and out of the Justice Department, like Brennan and, I don't know, Comey, and I'm watching Robert Mueller's circus. It's a circus. It's nothing more than political wars, mafia wars, political wars. And you haven't laid a glove, you haven't touched the gangster banksters and their mafia of lawyers and servicers and debt collectors and title insurance companies. It's sickening. The bondholders have allowed to slip away. All the insurance companies that are underwriting like AIG and, they all been bailed out. You bailed out the largest financial criminal syndicate in the history of the world. You bailed them out. 100 cents on the dollar, Timothy Geithner. How many times have you bailed out the American public? Right? The American public just gets the bill, while you bail out all your fabulously wealthy criminal cabal and criminal friends, your criminal buddies. Folks, I'm leaving it right there. I could go on for months, and I don't want to confuse you. But this smoke and mirrors game, it's all smoke and mirrors, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sorry, Donald Trump, but, you've become a stumbling block because of all your old whore girlfriends. That Stormy Daniels is, man, that's damaged goods, folks. Stormy Daniels, damaged goods. And if this is the kind of people that Donald Trump are rolling with, give me a break. Ladies and gentlemen, I got nothing more to say. And well, I take that back. I got a whole lot more to say, but not on this video. Hasta la vista. God bless. And you betcha we're definitely, positively coming back.